It's a great honor and a privilege to give the closing remarks of the first ASEAN Think Tank Network virtual conference. Let me start by thanking the speakers for their interesting presentations, and in particular, I would like to thank Ravindra Noor for his wonderful work on raising the profile of ASEAN. Empowering ASEAN Forward takes us straight to the core of today's challenges. How do we adjust to the technological revolution that is just in front of us and which will fundamentally change the way our societies and economies are structured? It will change our work lives, our social lives, and the way we learn. It will also change the way the world is organized and change relations between countries. The many new challenges we will face will require responses at different levels, some local, some national, some regional, and some global. ASEAN plays a key role in the region to ensure not only that proper regional responses are developed, but also to ensure that the voice of the 10 member countries is heard loud and clear when global responses to issues are being developed. It has been great to see how ASEAN, despite the difficulties faced in 2020, has managed to move successfully forward. The signing of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement is a major step, politically and also economically. It will support regional integration and strengthen the economic development of ASEAN. It also creates new opportunities for countries outside the region. The EU High Representative, Foreign Minister Borrell, has just last week described many of these positive elements for Europe. Earlier this month, at the 37th ASEAN Summit held in Hanoi, it was gratifying to see that during this time, where many international arrangements are being questioned and challenged, ASEAN has successfully maintained and pushed forward its agenda. This year, 2020, is a year that we will all remember for the changes, the suffering, and the frustrations, and also for the hope that it brought us. It was a year where the world, the global community, all shared one challenge, COVID-19. A challenge that disrupted our normal international interactions and which require a coordinated international response. We have all had to adjust our lives, our work lives, our social lives, and our family lives even. These adjustments have required major efforts, not least from the young, and it's tempting to focus mainly on the suffering that we had to go through in 2020. However, as we have seen today, even bigger changes are in front of us. The fourth industrial revolution has started, and COVID-19 has accelerated this development. Today, we have discussed new technologies, e-commerce, e-health, new types of leadership, digital transformation, social impacts, and new ways of travel. These issues are rapidly gaining a new significance and will change many of the ways that we used to follow. Now, if we look back for a moment and think, how did we see the world just 12 months ago, at the end of 2019? Back then, 1 year ago, we were largely focused on climate change, growing inequality, and rising nationalism. Difficult issues, two of them, climate change and rising inequality, were long-standing challenges, growing in importance, sadly, but largely well-known problems to which the solution was still escaping us. The third, rising nationalism, was a newer challenge, driven in part by the rising inequality and because of the benefits from globalization were seen by many as benefiting only others. COVID-19 has amplified last year's challenges. Inequality is now also a question of access to medical treatment, access to vaccine, access to personal protective equipment. The link between inequality and health, its direct impact on life, has been made much clearer by the pandemic. Now, 1 year later, at the end of November 2020, we look back at a year where most of the world has been preoccupied by lockdowns, by securing health. It is easy to overlook the leaps that have taken place as part of the Industrial Revolution 4. But let me make some links. The move to relocate production, to secure supply chains, to create national or regional independence is in part facilitated by the Industrial Revolution 4, which makes such shifts possible without unacceptable economic cost. The rapid development of COVID-19 vaccines by Pfizer, Moderna, and other companies is possible due to the Industrial Revolution 4. The messenger RNA vaccines that we are now pinning our hopes on are using new technologies, and it's almost like they are being developed by tech companies rather than by traditional pharmaceutical companies. In this process of global transformation, I remain optimistic about the prospects of ASEAN. The young population, an increasingly well-educated population and internet savvy, provides an important ingredient for ASEAN's successful future development. ASEAN has also, as a regional grouping, understood the importance of being an integral part of the global system. This understanding manifests itself in many ways. One example is the EU-ASEAN connectivity strategy. The signing of RCEP, as I mentioned earlier, is another example, and so is the involvement in the BRI. Within ASEAN, a number of intra-ASEAN connectivity initiatives have been taken. These range from ASEAN smart logistic networks, creating travel corridors, and to customs transit systems, just to name a few. The changes brought about during the past year in terms of remote education, much more intense use of technologies in learning, provides many areas and regions in ASEAN with new opportunities to further local development. It is no longer a must to travel to faraway countries to get world-class education. It can increasingly be obtained in front of a computer. This has a major impact on access to knowledge and can be of major benefit for ASEAN. To the young listening in today, I encourage you to use the strength of ASEAN to bring your communities, your countries, and your region forward. You are in the center of a dynamic part of the world. A peaceful region experiences growth rates that are the envy of much of the world. Use this strength to further economic development, to address the two long-standing problems I mentioned earlier, climate change and inequality, making sure that ASEAN continues to integrate with the rest of the world. The fourth industrial revolution is here, and our challenge is to use it as wisely as possible. I thank you for your attention.